Welcome, everybody. You're listening to After the Master, a podcast in which I talk to people who have recently earned a master's degree from a globally leading program and are now on the path to achieving their professional goals. The graduate school community is being enriched by international students and professionals more than ever. However, they often misunderstand or are unaware of career prospects after the master's program. In this show, my guests delve into their experiences to highlight their mistakes, learnings, and realizations, which I am sure will help you move closer to your career goals. If you would like to listen to this episode, please see the description for a link to your favorite app. Hi Pooja, how are you?
Hi, Ruben. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And thank you so much for taking the time out to be part of my show. I'm really happy, and I think this will be a very informative session for whoever watches or listens to this.
I'm glad I can help.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So to begin with, can you give a brief introduction about yourself, and feel free to go include or exclude as much as you'd like.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Pooja Surneni. Now, I have done my undergrad in computer science and engineering from VIT University, which is in India. And I worked for 2 years post that. And after that, I've done my master's in international management, international business from the US. Post that, I'm currently working in a Big Four in consulting. Yeah.
Excellent. So, Pooja, you went to the business school at Arizona State University. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
So I went to Thunderbird School of Global Management. They specialize in international business and global management, and basically work with more than students from more than 50 countries. So it's very diverse.
Very diverse. One of the first questions that I like to ask is, what was your main motivation for first choosing the field that you did, and also why the US?
Okay. For choosing the field that I did, to be honest, I was at a phase in life where I had no clue what I wanted to do. And I'm sure many of you are in the same boat, right? Because
Many people, yes.
After you're done with your undergrad, you're like, okay, let me take the first job I get. But then you either hate it or you love it. And then you're like, do I want to do this for my life? So I was also in a similar boat, and I was really confused. I just didn't know what to do. So I picked something more generic, like international business, which would give me more options in terms of which career to pick. So as for why I picked the US, primarily because my motivation to doing my master's was never to relocate, right? So I never had any thing in mind about, okay, where will I get citizenship? Where will it be easy to get PR and all of that? It was never that. For me, it was more about going for the experience. Where can I go where I have a lot of diversity, right? And because I applied not just in the US, when I was applying, I applied to a few schools in Canada as well. Okay. So it was just more about diversity, experience, and schools that felt right, for me.
Perfect. So you did have a couple of years of experience, like you worked in India for a couple of years before you went, right? Now, do you think that, and I know for a fact that a lot of master's programs prefer some sort of work experience in candidates. But do you think that helped you? Your work experience helped you when you went there?
Definitely. It definitely helped me. What I would say is that as somebody, I had 1.5 to 2 years of experience, right? As somebody with that much experience, and as somebody who had done basically at that point in time, you do very basic jobs, right? Like entry level jobs.
Yeah.
So when I went there, I was never at a disadvantage academically, right? I did very well academically because that's how we're trained. But I feel like for a lot of courses, right, whether it came to corporate finance, whether it came to strategy, right, while I got things theoretically very easily, like people who had been in the business for a little longer or had more experience could ask more pointed questions. So I guess it's just how much information you can extract from your professors or from the subject itself varies on your experience. But that said, I don't think students will ever be at a disadvantage going with less experience.
All right. Yeah, because a lot of people do apply directly, after college or in their last year. But
exactly.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So,
and it depends on the degree also, right? Depends on the degree.
It depends a lot on the degree. A lot, yeah.
Technical masters, it's much more preferred that you go earlier rather than later.
True.
So
Yeah, that's right. Now, before you went though, or did you contact people there in the US at Thunderbird or the other schools that you applied to in Canada? Did you try and get in touch with alumni or current students? I ask this because what I'm getting at is, what was your perception like before you went? And did you do anything to kind of prepare yourself a little bit better?
Yeah, 100%. So I contacted alumni from all the schools that I applied to.
Achha.
Right? Because what you hear and what you see on the webpage and blogs and all of that is just like one side of the story. And a lot of times it's embellished, right? Because it's PR and marketing. It's very important to hear from students what their experience is like. For example, one of the schools, right, that I spoke to. So I reached out to people on LinkedIn and also through the academic advisors, right? I guess they are the people who contact you once you apply. Right?
Right, from the department at the school that you applied to.
Yes, admissions, right.
Admissions.
So I contacted through both those channels. And I remember in one of the schools, right, they said that, you know what, it's okay, the school is great, but you'll have to compete with like undergrad freshers when you're getting a job. And to me, this was new. I was like, I'm going for a master's. I shouldn't have to do that, right? It was like a great school. So that was an eye-opener for me. And for the school that I went to, I was very fortunate. I spoke to somebody and he was very frank with me. He said, listen, these are the pros, these are the cons here. Very honestly, right? He said, okay, you might not get this, this and this, but you will definitely get this, this and this. Right? And that to me helped because I made an informed decision with my eyes open about the pros and cons.
Yes, 100%.
So I definitely would recommend that to anybody going. Please make sure you talk to at least 2-3 people. And students are generally very helpful when you reach out to them about this.
Yes. I've all the people that I spoke with so far, most of them did the same as you did. They contacted alumni or current students to get a sense of whether they are applying to something that is meaningful to them or not. Otherwise, you don't want to go there, spend whatever $1,000 and again feel lost when you're applying for jobs.
Exactly.
Or proceeding to whatever is your next career step. Now, when you went there, what was the first thing or the most important thing that you wanted to focus on, or what is it that you tended to focus on when you went there in terms of either doing well in the masters or trying to make the most of opportunities, or trying to find opportunities that to help you get an internship or a job later on?
So I think one, and this is something I learned very late, right? That's something I would share, right? When I went, I focused on, one semester of let me just settle down, let me figure out what's happening. And, I wasn't prepared in the sense that, okay, I should be going to career fairs or I should be doing this. So I didn't have that background knowledge. For some reason, I wasn't able to get that. But I think what I would say is the first thing that you should be doing is really just trying to understand what are the resources that you can leverage, right? Because it varies from university to university. For me, my biggest resource was my alumni network, right? You really can get a lot. There are some people who are so helpful. They want to mentor you, they want to help you with your career, right? So that is one thing you should definitely do. Second thing is anybody going abroad, especially for a business degree, right? Business, finance, or non-tech degrees, right? I would say that please put aside some money even before going, right? Just for your travel and career fairs and everything, because it does help to know some of these recruiters. It helps to have visibility, sit for a few interviews, because it's different, right? Going from India, you have to get used to like how the language is different, what you're supposed to say, how you filter out certain things. And maybe a lot of you will be like very lucky that, you have an interview, you crack it and you're amazing and it's all great. But I didn't, right? I could not do small talk, which is a big thing there. I could not network. Yeah, I couldn't network. Like I would go to these events and talk to somebody, and I'm like, yeah, I'm great. How are you? But then what do you talk about? So finding those common topics and trying to get somebody to mentor me. So it takes a while. You might fail at a few interviews, but don't think of it as failure. Think of it as practice, because ultimately, right? Think about the long-term goal of what is it that you want to achieve. Even if you don't get an internship, it's okay. I didn't get an internship. I traveled and I was very happy for it. But that's just me, right? So all I'm trying to say is don't be discouraged. Like focus on the end goal and make sure you leverage the resources.
Right. So you mentioned you took advantage of the alumni network. Now this network, did you kind of build that once you were there, like going to events, and also, something that I'm working with somebody who's also applying to a finance degree, finance program, and it is on the East Coast near New York, not in New York or in one of those big cities, but close to that. And what I observed while researching the program and the opportunities, I saw a lot of networking events that were happening outside the university, like in a nearby city. Now, New York isn't too far, Philadelphia isn't too far, Boston isn't too far from that place. So in your case, did you go out of your way, like outside the campus, regular events that happen in the campus, go to the nearest city, I suppose, Phoenix?
Yeah. So Thunderbird in particular, the school I went to, right, they had a very strong, how do you say, community culture, right? And pub culture. Like it was a thing, right? Like having pub nights. So they had things like First Tuesdays where local alumni networks would connect. Right. So I've been to a few of
them. Like physically, you go
in a pub. So you you connect over drinking. Like that was a thing there. So you connect over drinking, and you get and see how you network with these people differs on the channel through which you network. Right. If you go through events like this that are fairly informal, they don't like it if you go and say, hey, help me with the job. Right. They are there to make connections, right? They want to be friends with you. So you have to go with that in mind, that I'm here to build a relationship. Maybe it will benefit me, maybe it will not. Right.
True.
But that said, a lot of I met a very helpful alumni through LinkedIn. So I would just go through like, okay, I like this company. Is there any alumni who's worked there? So then I would contact them, and sometimes I would be lucky and they would reply back, and sometimes they wouldn't. So I met somebody and she helped me get in touch with her company, and she really pushed inside that, okay, she's a really great resource, please help her get this internship and whatever, right? So LinkedIn is one other great source. Third great source is, most schools like my school have an alumni department, right?
Right.
And what they do very early on is, based on your interest, career interest, they pair you with an alumni who will mentor you through your journey at school.
Got it.
Right? And they will say, even if they can't help you with a job, at least they'll tell you, okay, why don't you do mock interviews with me?
Mhm.
Right? Why don't you reach out to this person? He was in my batch and might be helpful. Right? So things like that. But that said, I did travel. I did travel when required. I didn't go out of my way. Like, I didn't fly East Coast to West Coast and all that.
Got it.
But
got it.
yes, I did try and attend these events.
Excellent. And during that phase of looking for jobs, trying to connect with people, is there something that you think you did a little better than others, or something you were doing that probably others were not doing? Like,
I feel like I didn't do most things that people should be doing, because I was like, I didn't know how to build that relationship, and I'm generally introvert in that sense.
okay,
But I think one of the things that I did better was just be honest about what I wanted, right? With a lot of people that didn't work, but with a lot of people that did work, right? At least there's a lot of clarity about, okay, she knows what she's looking for. When I was doing when I decided I want to do consulting, right? I spoke to a few people, and basically this one guy gave me very good advice. He said that, Dick, consultants are notorious for not recommending you, right? They're too busy. Unless there is like a bonus involved, like a recruitment bonus, referral bonus, they probably will not. Okay. So he said, instead of doing all this, try and understand what consultants do. It's not as nice as what people say on paper, right? So I talked to almost 30, 40 consultants in various practices. I'm not joking. I really talked to so many consultants, because by the time you actually take the job, right, you have no qualms about like working 12 to 16 hours. And consultants do work 12 to 16 hours easy every day.
Totally.
Right? And only because I knew so much about it, I went in with my eyes open, right? When I did give my interview, the guy asked me, listen, as a girl, do you want to do consulting? Right? It's going to have an impact on your home life and this and that. And how will you find balance? And I was like, yeah, I know about it. I'm prepared about it. And I want to do this. But in no way did my masters help me with that. Right?
This was something you did by yourself, completely trying to understand.
Completely by myself.
Yeah.
Right. And it helped me towards the end of my career, or towards the end of my master's, because by then I knew, okay, this is what I want to do in my career. So I was able to go to them and say that, can you please help me with this? It was a very pointed ask, but it helped. Right. So I think having clarity also is a very big advantage there.
Yeah, surely. Probably in my experience, I did see a few people, who were trying to just put a facade, or trying to
they're like, they kiss ass, right? Like,
correct.
Be more.
Yeah, you're just trying to please the other person without really. Yeah. So I suppose being on, and I've heard this, I spoke to another person this was for a scholarship interview, and she also said that, it's just like, you be honest, know what is it that you know and want, and what is it that you don't know and don't want. So I think that goes a long way and helps with connecting with the other person to some extent, just that factor. So eventually you did you did secure a position, you secured a job, but going back to the point that you mentioned earlier, that a lot of recruiters or a lot of positions are meant for fresh graduates. So the kind of work that you were able to find, was it more on a senior position, a senior level, or was it kind of entry? What kind of a position was it as such?
Towards the end of my career, right, I wanted to go into consulting, right? Towards the end of my master's, I wanted to go into consulting.
Yeah.
Right. Now, the thing about consulting is, if you've never been in consulting, no matter what you start as, you will start as a consultant, which is basically once you graduate, right? You will start as a consultant, which is almost the fresher role for any graduate, right?
Okay.
But in terms of pay, it depends on the consulting company you're going for, right? For me, I didn't go for any of the big fours or the Bain, McKinsey and all of that, right? Because I really struggled, and they were not looking, they wanted people who've been in consulting or are either tech savvy, right? Because they didn't want to not take somebody who was not in an Ivy League, right? 2, did not have any consulting background. And 3, they didn't want to sponsor for that particular line of work if they could avoid it, right? At least that was my experience.
By sponsor, you mean the H-1B visa sponsorship?
Yes. Because it was not tech, right? It's not STEM. This is business, because we have we had a 1-year OTP, right? Where
OPT.
Yeah. OPT. OPT. But anyway, so 1 year to basically get that H-1B sponsorship and stuff.
Correct.
Right. But in terms of pay, so because I was going for a slightly more niche consulting company, what they offered me is basically just above the, that threshold that they have. Like they have a requirement that H-1B applicants must be paid X amount, right? So they offered me like literally just enough to be able to meet that requirement. And I did accept it. I didn't ultimately take the job, but I did accept it because based on what I spoke with a lot of other people, right? A lot of international students, whether Indian or other countries, right? A lot of them face that challenge, and they basically said that, look at the goal here, get a foot in the door. And once you have a foot in the door, then you have a little more room to negotiate, right?
Correct.
You need to change a job after 1 year. You need to switch or keep looking for more jobs. At least you have something in hand, right? I wasn't ecstatic about the pay, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah, a lot of people do expect, I'll do an MBA or a business master's in a business degree, and get a bump straight away, a 6-figure salary. But yeah, go ahead.
And it also depends, So the thing is, salary there will depend not only on how many years of experience you have and where you have done your master's from, but also on your location. So it's almost like saying 50,000 in a smaller town is the equivalent of 100,000 in a town like New York or San Francisco. So you do have to keep that in mind while you accept a certain pay.
100%. Yeah, this is something that I think people are getting to know now, that that there can be a stark difference between your pay as well as expenses at one city like San Francisco. 200K will probably be equivalent to 70K in Phoenix or Texas or somewhere.
And what a lot of people don't know is that I found out much later is, in addition to your pay, you can negotiate for certain perks. For example, outside of your salary, you can negotiate for travel expense. You can negotiate for your communication and this and that. Like a lot of your bills can get covered that way. But you have to know to be able to negotiate for it.
100%. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. This is a great tip. Actually, I've not heard this from anyone else. Like even my friends, this kind of negotiation. I think some of your programs even include probably a negotiation course, probably more on the corporate side, but
Yes.
these kind of things they probably, throw in these small tips and tricks. Yeah. Now, okay, so for business degrees, the fee that you have to pay is often a little bit more, or can be a lot more than, say, an MS or another technical degree or another professional non-business degree. And people say that you're paying for the networking or the networking opportunities. Now, of course, you've mostly spoken about that till now. But what role did the curriculum, the program play in, say, building your skill set?
For me, I think the biggest thing about the curriculum was me identifying what I liked and what I didn't like.
Okay.
Going into the course, I was very confident that I'm going to be somebody who loves marketing. Okay, I was very dead set that by the end of my course, I will love marketing or, something like sales, like account management and all that. And ultimately, I'll end up in a job like that. But what I realized through my course, through various, experiential projects and programs, and that's a big thing there, right? You have a lot of experiential, practical application. Is that I actually really, really did not like marketing. And I really enjoyed finance, right? I really enjoyed the ability to problem solve, right? And those are things I discovered about myself. And, that's probably not a great thing because in a way, it's not a great thing because, as soon as you go to master's courses, it's like, okay, start networking, you have to get an internship, right? Because secure internship by Jan and then start looking for a job. And so you don't have that liberty of time to discover what you really want. But I would just say to people that, don't give in to that because you have to look at long term, right? If you focus on the short term, you'll ultimately take up some job, but you might really hate it. And if your objective is, okay, I just want any job, that's fine. But if your objective is to try and understand what you really like, don't give in to that pressure, take your time, but actually invest in figuring out what you like. And talking to professors. So one of the good things there is, at least for the school I went to, right? Professors were very, very open to talking to students, right? You can have office hours, but you could always talk to them on email or just, and ask them, how do I do this? How do I do this? You can ask silly questions and they're okay. I had one professor, okay, and this is some of the best advice I've ever gotten in life, okay, basically, for anybody who was as confused as me. He said, and I was like, at that point in time, I was, also like thinking about entrepreneurship. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know what I want to do. Maybe I want to do everything. Let me just look at entrepreneurship. And so that professor told me, okay, you know what? Keep a notebook with you. Every time you have an idea, okay, pen down that idea. At the end of a certain time, pick one idea that you really want to take and say, and he said, start mock building a company. Okay. So he said, start noting down what are you going to do in finance? What are you going to do in marketing? How are you going to do this, that? And he said, through that exercise, if you're really passionate, okay, about this idea and entrepreneurship, you will put your foot down and complete it. Okay. Some or the other way, you will complete. But if you're not, okay, you might do a bit of it and say, I hate this. I'm going to outsource this. Why do I need to do this? And that way you kind of understand what it is you like doing and you probe further, right? And that way you even ask more pointed questions in class. So you extract more out of the material in that sense. And you can pick their brain, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually pretty good advice. I've heard this from, I think, a couple of the podcasts. I mean, something similar. Yeah, that's and a lot of people, they I suppose it may be sort of a myth or a misunderstanding that professors are not really helpful, after they come, they teach, or they probably help with your project or something like that, and then it's difficult to get in touch with them. But that is not the case, particularly in the US and Canada. I know that for a fact. Maybe some other cultures might be a little different, but yes, and this is a great example of how to make the most of the faculty there. And a lot of them do have some sort of background in the industry. They may before teaching or before academia. I know, yeah.
Right. And I just want to point out, right, for anybody going abroad, especially US, Canada, that region, even Europe, for example, nobody's going to give things to you on a platter, even
True.
information.
True.
If you can't ask, you will not get them. No matter what it is, you have to ask for it. And it's it's common sense to ask for something. It's like, yeah, but why didn't you ask?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So
yeah. This is something that one of my roommates in the US, he told me, and I cover this in our podcast, in our episode. He used to, I mean, his advice is be besharam, or just don't hesitate to ask or talk to somebody. And me, I have always been on the quieter side. I kind of hesitate when talking to people, especially if they are at a more senior position. But once I said this in that episode also, that the position that I'm in now, I have to try and reach out to people, other companies, and this and that. And for the most, it has worked. Even here, like even in India, where maybe it is probably a little more difficult to get through to people, but it just, what is there to lose? There is not much to lose. You just have to ask.
exactly.
If it works, excellent. If it doesn't work, you're in the same position that you were in. Yeah. All right.
Exactly.
Gosh, band ho gaya. Okay, so I'll pause again, and then we'll cover the last part. Cool, awesome, Pooja. This is going well. I'm happy. All right. Yeah. So you kind of already touched upon, what I wanted to ask you next, about advice for, people looking to go to the US for a master's in business, or to people who are already in a program and are kind of looking to find a job or an internship. But apart from what you've said already, is there something like, a singular piece of advice that you would like to tell people?
Yes. One advice that I feel like has really helped me and I really follow even to date, right, is actually two things, right? Not one thing. Two things. The first thing is, if you want to do something, right, you think about it and do it, right? The only thing that should be stopping you is if you feel like, okay, I might really regret this in life, like 10 years down the line.
Yeah.
But what I would suggest is go ahead and do it, because one, life is too short. And I feel like not many people realize how fortunate we are to be able to go and have that experience, right? Not everybody can do that, right? Whether it is in life or whether it is through your masters, right? Like generally also, don't go party with people, enjoy that, go experience like hikes and travel and this and that, because it adds to your life experience. And you never know when something like that will help you, right? So unless you're going to really, really regret it, I would say please go ahead and just do things. Don't be in your own head. And the second piece of advice that I would give is that, and this is again something my professor told me, but it's really stuck with me, is that, always keep learning, right? Whether it is through failure, whether it is through challenges, hardships in life, whether it is through your classes, relationships, whatever.
Yeah.
Always keep learning, because that's how you will make the most of your life and your experiences and become better. right? Like at least you won't think about that. Fear of failure will go away because your goal is to learn, not to succeed, but to learn.
Excellent. And I would like to add to this one I think quote that I do not remember who it is from, but the quote says that if you let your learning lead to knowledge, you become a fool. If you let your learning lead to action, you become successful or wealthy in this case. Yeah, but that's a great piece of advice. I also personally, I'm practically immersed in trying to learn from whatever source possible, by talking to you, by talking to clients, whatever it is. Yeah, I try to learn. That is a great piece of advice. I would second that very strongly. Now, one thing that I would like your opinion on is, what is it like? What was your experience like through the whole process? Even probably you can also, if you'd like, you can go back to the time that you were working in India. What is it like to be a woman, through this whole process?
I think, you know, and personally speaking, right? This is just me.
Yeah.
I think I was very fortunate to have a lot of support in terms of my family and everybody, right? Because I know a lot of people struggle with that, right? They don't want their daughters to be so far away from home. And like, there's always this thing about, oh, what if something happens to you? And, social reservations about what girls can or can't do, right? So I was very fortunate that I didn't have those challenges, right? As a woman there, I was never treated less than equal.
Excellent.
Right? I was given the same opportunities. I did not struggle with pay also. Like basically my counterparts with the same experience were paid the same as me, right? But I would say one thing, right? And maybe in my position, I felt like I actually kind of had it a little easier than my male counterparts, right? And I'll tell you why, okay? Especially Indian male counterparts, right? Because there was never a pressure on me to like get a job ASAP, right? You have to pay. I mean, not that it wasn't, right? Because even I had financial commitments to take care of, but somewhere I felt like on my male counterparts, it was a little more, right? And I think mentally that helped me with a few options, right? Because socially, right, India is always like, Indian families, right, are like, okay, you know what, after you've crossed a certain age, you have to come back, get married, or whatever, be married, and that pressure is a little less. And I'm glad it's decreasing a little bit and that equality is there. But I definitely had that option of like, relaxing a little more or taking the time to figure out what I wanted. But one other thing I feel that was a challenge for me, right? I talked about all the advantages, but was a challenge for me, I think, was definitely that whether society makes it that way, whether I was that way. But I think I always undermined my own success or my own skills or my, what I could do. Right. And I feel like confidence is a really big thing. Okay. So I'll give you an example. Right? Somebody with same experience as me, right? Same work experience. Think about it. I am doing better academically. I am more involved in my college. More people know me, very enterprising and all of that. And then there is this person who is not as enterprising as me, but makes up for that in confidence, right? Male counterpart. Go strike up a conversation, and he finds it easier because somehow that confidence and that, I don't, and, it was just being able to do guy talk that made it easier for him to connect with a lot of
Recruiters.
male alumni or male
Oh,
recruiters,
okay.
right?
Okay.
And again, this is not probably about gender, or this is probably just about being able to, exude that confidence and do that small talk. But that was a challenge I faced. Like, I wasn't able to, project that confidence, or I was too self-critical. And I
Right.
think I would tell most women who are going that, there are enough people to be critical. You don't have to be your harshest critic,
Okay.
right? So don't let that in any way undermine you. So yeah.
All right. Perfect. Now, since you have this realization, have you become more confident as a person?
In a way, yes.
And are you seeing that play around in your life also?
Yes, definitely. And I think it's something I'm still building up to every day. But a recent example of that would be I recently switched jobs, right? And in the first job that I took immediately after my master's, I was like, I was still like underconfident, and I was like, will I get this? Maybe I should just settle for this and this and that, right? And through that journey, I realized I shouldn't have to, right? My counterparts, male or female, are, they are demanding what they want and all that. So in this journey of switching, right, I've been very adamant about, you know what, this is what I want, this is what I need, and I'm not going to do anything less than that. And it did not backfire on me. So for me, it was a learning lesson that, again, like you said earlier, if you don't ask, right, and if you don't
Express.
practice what you preach, I guess.
Right.
You don't practice your confidence, right, and what you want, it's not going to come to fruition. So yeah, it's definitely helping me, and still a work in progress, but yeah.
Excellent. I think you'll get there very soon. Now, speaking about getting there, the last question that I would like to ask or get your opinion on is, what according to you is success, or who do you see, or I mean, as projecting yourself in the future, when would you consider yourself successful?
I think for me as a person, success is not about long-term goals.
Okay.
I am terrible at meeting long-term goals.
Okay.
If I say I want to do this in 5 years, I will probably not do it. Right? For me, success is short-term goals. Basically, I try to keep my goals within 1 to 2 years, right? And in the process, I realize what are other goals that I want to achieve, right? Because looking forward, right, I don't want to think about, oh, I want to be so rich. Because the objective is not to get rich. The objective is to do something I really love, and hopefully, money will come with it. Or objective is to have a certain, balance. But how do you achieve that balance, right? It's so vague to say, oh, in 10 years, I want to have a very balanced life. But what does that mean?
What does that mean? Yeah.
Right? And that might change for who I am in 10 years.
True.
Right? So for me, it's more about setting short-term goals and achieving those short-term goals. And in the process, not having any regrets 10 years from now, I guess. That I would say is success.
Perfect. Very well said. All right. So yeah, Pooja, thank you. I think this was a great session.
Alright, so that was me talking to Pooja, but stick around for the bonus clip which is coming up in just a few moments. If you would like to get in touch with her, please do so on LinkedIn I'm sure she would be happy to answer any of your questions. And if you are planning to apply to programs, graduate programs abroad, I offer several services, and I am also working on a bunch of resources, including workshops which will begin in June. Please see my website rbnedu.com for relevant information, and you'll find the links in the description. If you found this episode helpful and think that this will help others, please share this within your network. I will post a new episode every week, so stay tuned and subscribe. Thank you.
From someone else, I know that they didn't have a very good experience applying to universities through a large sort of conventional consultant. And I know for a fact that there are several who specialize or focus on business programs or MBAs. Now, when you were applying, what did you do? Like, what did you do that helped you get to or receive admission or, apply basically?
Okay. So I also went through a consultant for my applications. So I did like the whole research, right? Where so and so big company and this and that. But every big company I kind of went to, right? It was like it was very cookie cutter. Okay, you have like a template. And fill in the blanks, do that. Somebody will call you and so date. And it didn't feel right. I just felt like my voice wasn't being heard, one. And it took away from the experience a little bit. And three, it was just like stupid expensive. Like, to me, it made no sense. I'm not stupid, right? The fact that I'm going through this process and applying means that I want to learn more and have a certain qualification, right? I mean, I can put in the work, right? Or I want my thoughts to be known rather than just somebody else's words on paper. But that was my experience. So I actually went through an independent consultant. And that was great for me because he gave me all the help I needed. He gave me great guidance. There was this thing of, yes, there are templates. Yes, there are. But, he wanted to really get down what I wanted on paper. Right? Definitely. So both the goals are achieved. You want to get in, but you also want to get in and make the experience great and get your goals on paper, right? And I felt like it was a little personalized, right? Where if I was struggling, I was having a roadblock, right? Like a mental block about, I don't know what to write. I could talk to this person, right? Or, I could have a freak out and he would be like, yeah, it's okay. You know what? It's fine. If we miss this deadline, it's okay. We will figure out what to do. Rather than, oh, I'm sorry, you missed this deadline, but you paid us, so we can't do anything. Right? I mean, I get certain things, but I just guess it was nice to have a partnership in the entire process. So yeah, I went to an independent consultant. Together, we figured out schools that might be a great fit for me. And, we went through various drafts of my application, edited it, he did, I did. We had discussions over it, arguments over it. Went through, the application, and it was great. I'm still in touch with him. And it's, I would recommend that.